It's now time to tackle a very long, confusing, but important part of our journey. I'm going to acknowledge the parentheses I've been using in and out of conversation so far. We're going to be talking about particles. Particles exist in Korean to help fully explain what we're trying to say and how we're trying to say it. It helps the listener realize what the essential information is. These are important grammar points. As you progress, sometimes you'll see that more advanced learners leave these out. You may feel inclined to do this because particles can be pretty intimidating, but I never advise that to beginners. Leaving out particles without the true understanding of them could muddy up your sentences and translations, and you could potentially land yourself in an awkward situation when trying to speak to someone. That was a lot for an intro. Please prepare yourself for a very long grammar session. This will be in a few parts as not to confuse you. Some parts might overlap to show you contextual differences in the many particles. The first particle we're going to be talking about today is 는. This is called the topic marking particle. For words that end in vowels, you will use 는. And words that end in consonants, you will use 은. Like for 저는 and 책은. These might seem pretty confusing because you might think, oh, like a subject. Not really. Unfortunately, there is a subject marker that we will learn about in the next video. The topic marker is literally what the name implies. It marks the topic, what we will be talking about. This can also loosely be translated to when it comes to or as for. This translation won't always work, but it gives you a good idea of the feeling. So if I wanted to make the conversation about pizza, I would mark it with a topic marker so the listener knows, hey, this is what I want to talk about. I could follow up with the rest of my statement saying whatever I want about that topic. 피자는 맛있어요. Pizza is delicious. This is what I want to talk about. If you want to change the subject, just switch it up by adding the topic marker to the new topic, like in the following conversation. 피자는 맛있어요. 그래요? 저는 햄버거를 좋아해요. The first speaker is setting up for the conversation to be about pizza. The second speaker wants to make it about themselves and what they like. Once it is clear to both parties what the topic is, you don't have to keep repeating it like we do in English. We tend to start our sentences with the subject at the beginning of each sentence. I went to the park yesterday. Then I went home. I ate dinner around 6. In Korean, this is not necessary. You do not need to keep repeating I in this case or whatever the topic is. 방탄소년단은 너무 멋있어요. 내 노래를 항상 들어요. We set the topic in the first sentence as BTS. This is what we're talking about. The listener responds with, yeah, I always listen to their songs. Notice the literal translation says, I always listen to songs. In English, this would not make any sense, but in Korean, because we know the topic is BTS, they don't have to be referenced again. Even though they're not mentioned in the second sentence, person A will know from context that we're still talking about BTS. There's a few different usages that particle has. We've just covered our first one, and that is to put a spotlight on what we're talking about. This can also be used for comparative scenarios, giving factual information, and just emphasizing that everything after the particle is the important bit of information. By now you're saying, if it has all of these usages, how will I know what is being said when someone else speaks? You can tell all of this by the context, something you'll learn as you progress. Let's talk about giving information. This is usually factual information or something that everyone knows. Everyone knows the sky is blue, but this can also be used to give information about yourself. We've seen in examples before when providing our name, age, or information about us, I used 저는 to talk about ourselves. It's a rule of thumb that if you're talking about yourself or someone else and providing information about yourself or them, we'll use 저는. There are other scenarios where a different particle might be better, but we'll learn about that in the next video. So we can say things like 저는 키가 커요. I am tall. Or 제 머리는 짧아요. My hair is short. Wait, why is 는 attached to something other than I in 제 머리는 짧아요? It doesn't always get attached to pronouns. It can be attached to anything. It's often seen at the beginning of the sentence. It can be attached to a pronoun, word, or even a small phrase, like in 그 강아지는, 한국인 학생은. These are just small examples. Now we'll talk about comparative scenarios. Right off the bat, one you'll hear a lot is if someone says 너는 or 디바는요. Let's say you're exchanging greetings with someone. 안녕하세요, 에리어 씨. 잘 지내요? 네, 언니는요? By adding 는요 to the end of a person's name, title, or just a pronoun, it flips the conversation's focus back on them like, yes, I'm fine. As for you, what about or how about you? There can also be actual comparisons. Not like I like this more than this, but saying this ... but this ... Let me show you. 이것은 책이에요. 이것은 가방이에요. When it comes to this, or as for this, it's a book. When it comes to this, it's a bag. 디바 씨는 여자예요. 세수 씨는 남자예요. Diva is a woman. Seth is a man. This is how it can be used to show comparison between two topics. Now let's move on to emphasis. This is something you'll hear a lot when learning particles. What the particles emphasize in the sentence. There can be more than one particle in a sentence. Usually, not always, but usually by using 는, it emphasizes everything to the right of the particle as what's important. I like to use this example. You overhear friends talking. You only catch part of the conversation. You hear they're talking about Jimin, but you don't catch the rest of the conversation. So you might ask, what about Jimin? What did he do? Jimin 씨는 의사예요. Jimin is a doctor, they tell you. It's showing that everything to the right of it is the important part, what the speaker wants you to focus on. Used with a different particle, it would translate the same, but the nuance or the feeling of the sentence might be different. Oftentimes, when you're using 는 to give information, it has this effect too, presenting everything to the right as important. There are a few quick disclaimers I'd like to give you. Specifically for 는, you are going to see them used a lot in grammar points that don't necessarily have to do with this lesson. I don't want to get into it right now, but you will see in future lessons what I'm referring to. Just be wary not to scare you or overcomplicate things for you. It's going to feel weird to differentiate between subject and topic. It's going to be weird to think before starting a conversation, what or where should I put 는? A lot of advanced Korean learners can still mix up the uses or when to use these. I still think I should add it in places, then I find out it doesn't make sense. This is a very big learning process, breaking down the grammar to find the real meaning of the sentence. Just take some time and practice.